The House That Jack Built is a 2018 horror film written and directed by Lars von Trier and stars Matt Dillon and Bruno Ganz. The plot follows a man who begins a 12-year killing spree where he justifies every murder as a work of art, becoming his life's work, basically. So, this is Lars von Trier's most recent film, actually, and oddly enough, the first of his films that I've ever seen, which might be surprising to you. I've already said that to some people, and I've already surprised people with that comment. So I'll get to seeing more. Don't get me wrong, and I mean, I've been aware of him and his work for, I don't know, decades. He directed Danish films until the early 80s, when he started to gain international attention. I know about Antichrist and Melancholia and a handful of others, and I'll check them out someday. I'll get to them. Also, I should mention that I watched the unrated cut. My copy came with the unrated director's cut and the theatrical cut, and normally I will watch the theatrical version first. But it was this movie's reputation that got me to want to start with this version. I did, look. I looked up some Reddit articles and stuff like that, trying to figure out the differences, as you always have to do with the unrated director's cuts. And I've seen this movie on a number of those like disturbing movies lists, here on YouTube. Over the years, I've seen it on a bunch, and I knew I would check this out eventually. It's a movie that has always intrigued me, well, for the last 8 years anyways. And this was not an easy watch, man. And I'd say that it does belong on any self-respecting list of disturbing movies, for sure. So Matt Dillon plays our lead, Jack, a sociopathic monster. He has OCD, and he finds out that killing people is actually therapeutic for him. He also is some sort of an engineer who is obsessed with building the perfect house, which is kind of a metaphor here that you'll figure out. But most importantly, and what makes this film unique, is that it's structured in a way that it represents the story of Dante's Inferno. I'm not a literary expert, I'm not even going to pretend, and I haven't read that book, so I did have to kind of study up a bit, but this film is broken up into 5 parts, as told by Jack. And you learn that he's telling his stories of murder to a man that he calls Verge, who I at first thought was like a priest that he was confessing to. I don't know. For whatever reason, that's what I thought. Not sure if it's just me, but I guess I kind of struggled a little bit with figuring out who he was. I assume he's an imaginary character, but maybe that's open to interpretation. Let me know what you think. But he is named after Virgil, the poet from the Dante's Inferno story. So, he sort of serves as Jack's conscience in a way, as he questions, Jack's motives and pushes back on his moral explanations. Because like a lot of history's serial killers, Jack sees himself as something more than a killer, something of an artist. He's a true sociopath, and ultimately, this really is Lars von Trier's serial killer movie, and I mean that in the best way. It does have the stuff you would expect from a movie like this, the intelligent sociopath, capable of preying on people by convincing them that he's a regular member of society. They don't fully go into Jack's childhood, but you do get some glimpses of like an early life without compassion, and you see him showing early signs of sociopathy, probably psychopathy as well. One scene involving animal mutilation, which we all know where that leads usually, and it's a bit hard to watch. I fucking hate scenes like that, but you don't see a lot of young Jack, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So in a lot of ways, it's a fairly standard serial killer, like character study type movie. But since it's directed, by Lars von Trier, it's an art film guy. It really becomes something more with a wild ending. I didn't expect that again leaves things open to interpretation. I guess it polarized the attendees of the 2016 Cannes. I never know how to say that film festival, with some really loving it, but from what I read, like hundreds of people walked out frustrated, which I would have loved to have been there for that. From what I've read, it seems like they liked, Matt Dillon's performance, and they thought this was a good film, but the graphic violence I think was just too much for them. And from what I read, they did show the unrated director's cut to the Cannes Film Festival, so they saw the version I saw, not the regular version. So I can vouch for that unrated cut being a tough watch. Among all of Jack's victims, 2 of them were kids too. So there are some pretty disturbing scenes. So if carnage and shock value is all you're after, you will get that here. But I mean, you could view this as a slasher. I kind of did when I watched it, but it's it's obviously way more than that. For me, it kind of lines up a little with the more like cerebral serial killer movies, like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, or even Silence of the Lambs. Man, I'm a big fan of that one too. Lars von Trier, researched serial killers pretty extensively, from what I've read, and as someone who's watched a lot of true crime and even done a little bit of studying myself, this feels very much like the story of a real killer. And what I found interesting is that since these 5 stories take place over a 12-year period, but you don't really see what Jack's life is like in between these 5 murders. So, if you study serial killers, it's pretty common for these people to go like years at a time without killing anyone, before doing it again. Many times they attempt to live, a normal life at one point, and they just can't keep it going. I mean, I've never killed anyone, but I can relate. With Von Trier's, study into the world of serial killers, with the Jack character, he created, you can tell he was intrigued by people like Ted Bundy and Ed Gein, and even probably some others that I didn't pick up on. And the Bundy and Gein thing, I'm not going to elaborate on those, but if you watch this, you'll just pay attention, you'll catch on. If you've seen this, you should have caught on. I'm giving The House that Jack Built 3 out of 4 stars. It's not an easy watch, man. It's uncomfortable. This is probably one of Matt Dillon's best performances, and he leads us right into hell here, quite literally. I definitely recommend this to fans of true crime and serial killer stories and even slashers. And sure, it's a Von Trier film, so it's a little arty. It's probably the best of its kind that I've seen in a good while. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.
Subscribe right now, please.